Hello and good day. Welcome to this video. This is a response to the pretty popular video on YouTube here. It's entitled, What a Pianist Sees, Eye Tracking, Episode 1. It has to do with a pianist, a piano professor, and his student demonstrate some eye tracking glasses. They put on special glasses with software. I think you can even get some of these glasses if you have the right setup and so forth. So links are below that video, and links for that video are below this video, as well as several other links of mine here you might be interested in. Before I get into this video and my response to this video about the eye tracking glasses, which is a fascinating topic, if you need work on sight reading, you will be well off getting Sight Reading in Harmony complete edition. It's also available in some shorter editions only for general grades, but this is the complete edition with all the grades in it, the complete program. It features a 5-tier system of 4-part hymns and chorales, which is a progressive system of sight reading from the very beginning to advanced. So if you don't have this yet, please get it. It's probably the #1 sight reading system in the world right now, and I'm the author, I'm proud to say. So you're welcome to explore links below this video for Sight Reading and Harmony. And you may also study piano with me via Skype. There are links below this video, and or you may learn from me on the Well-Rounded Pianist, in which I supply weekly uploads. And as I speak, there are over 2,100 tutorials on that site right now. So now let's get to the topic on hand here, the What a Pianist Sees, eye tracking. And episode 1. I'm not sure if there's an episode 2 yet. Very interesting. So this piano professor, in conjunction with Steinway, demonstrates some piano pieces performed, memorized, and performed sight reading. And these eye tracking glasses show where the eye is, exactly where the performer's eye is. This piano professor and his student, and it compares those two. And the general thing to be learned from it is that I guess the more advanced you are, the less your eye will vary, the less your eye will move around. For example, the student who had been studying with this professor for a couple of years, it shows her eye movement, and it kind of goes all around. She's playing the famous Beethoven from the Pathetique Sonata, the slow movement. She plays that, and then they track her eyes. She's not sight reading it, she's playing it, performing it. And the eye tracker glasses shows that her eyes are sort of going here and going there and sort of going everywhere. And the professor, her teacher, points out that, that it should really be more steady, and that her eyes are too busy moving around, which I agree with. That's totally self-explanatory, I think. That makes a lot of sense. And then when he was performing something, of course, he's much more advanced than she is. His eyes were moving around, but less. They were moving less than her eyes were. And then they did some sight reading, and it showed them sight reading some various things. And coincidentally, actually, if you go to the very first chorale in Part 4 of Sight Reading and Harmony, #1. That's the chorale they were actually playing. There was both sight reading and chorale, and it was this one. was actually that same chorale here, number 1 in sight reading and harmony. I think, oh, I know that. Anyway, it showed them sight reading that, and it was out of another book. It wasn't out of my sight reading and harmony book. But the eye tracker showed, I guess for both the student and the professor, it was sort of oscillating from up here to down here. Sort of like in my last video I made for you, in which I talk about where the eyes should go when sight reading or when reading music. I say, it's okay to look down every once in a while to know where you are, but don't move your neck down, don't move your head down like that. And I think the professor in this video mentions that, I think, to the student as well, that, to keep the head motion at a minimum. It's okay to move your eyes a little bit. So it's not a bad thing at all when you're sight reading or reading music to glance down a little bit. It's just human nature. We're not robots, so we have to do that. But generally speaking, I think that I have found through experience that music that requires jumping, like let's say music of Franz Liszt or something very virtuosic where you have to jump around a lot, like, La Campanella or something like that. You almost have to look at your hands. You almost have to. I mean, you almost cannot not look at your hands when you're jumping around a lot. But when you're playing music that's closer together and without jumping, such as Bach chorales or even a lot of Brahms pieces, I'm going to demonstrate for you in a couple minutes here. With music that doesn't jump around, it's possible to keep your eyes on the music and not even to look down. So I'm going to show you this. I'm going to play this chorale here. Actually, I'm not going to play that one. I'm going to play another one. I'm just going to... No, I'm going to play this one first, then I'll do another one. Okay, so I'll play this. What I just played, what they played on the video. This is just part of the chorale. It's just four measures of it. I'm going to play this. I'm only going to look here. I'm not going to glance down at my fingers. Okay, so you can watch my eyes as I'm looking here. Okay. I was looking, I don't have the glasses on, so I can't prove this to you, but I am pretty certain that my eyes were focused pretty much on the middle between the treble and the bass clef. Somewhere in the middle there. I wasn't looking up and looking down and going all around, but my eyes were just fixated going like that. So you want to avoid, if you are reading music like this, avoid going up and down in a nervous fashion with your eyes. Keep it very steady. And I was playing slow for a reason. I was playing slow because when you're sight reading, or not even sight reading, but if you're just reading music for, let's say, the second or third time through, and you don't really know it very well, you have to play slower to program your mind to hear what you're playing and to have the fingerings worked out and everything. So I think that most pianists, from my experience, try to sight read things too quickly. And I think it's a good idea just to slow everything down. Slow and steady wins the race, and you'll have a much easier time sight reading. Okay, now, I'm going to play this example here. I happen to have it memorized because I've played it a lot. I'm going to play this now, and I'm going to look here, and then I'm going to try to analyze what I'm doing. Okay, I'm looking here, I'm not looking here now. Okay, maybe you were able to see my eyes. maybe you saw my eyes. I think what I did was when there was more activity in the bass, my eyes kind of went that way. So when I did this, the bass is going all the way down there. So I think, I don't have the glasses on, so I can't prove it, but I think my eyes were moving in that direction. So they were going, my eyes are going down there now. Now, since I'm more in the middle here, my eyes are focused more in the middle. Still in the middle. Now, I have a low bass note to go to here, so my eyes naturally want to just go a little bit to the left. Now it's contracting. The bass is going up and the soprano is going down. So in that case, my eyes are focused towards the middle because the outer voices are going in, and you really have, it makes more sense to keep your eyes more in the middle. So you can see in your peripheral vision the outer voices here. Now it's going a little higher. So now my eyes, I think, are focused not in the middle so much, but they're moving over here because the register is changing a little bit. And now the bass comes into play and it moves down to the lower register. So I think my eyes, I don't know if everyone would do this, but my eyes tend to go where the activity is going, but this is not jumping around. So if I want to, I can read it here without looking down. And if I want to, I can, if I have it memorized, I can look here. But still, if you're looking here, like the professor in the video, in the eye tracking video points out, you want to try to keep your eyes at a minimum moving around quickly. If it does move, your eye can go here, then it can go here, but you want to keep away from that. When the student was doing it, the eye was kind of going all over the place quickly. You want to try to avoid that. You want to keep very grounded. So that's my opinion on the issue, and that's how I would analyze my own eyes. I don't have the glasses on, so I don't know. Now, let me do this. I'm going to take sight reading and harmony. There's 150 examples in here. Each page has progressive chorales or part of chorales. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to close my eyes. I'm going to open it up blindly. Just open it up to a page, and I'm going to sight read this. Okay, this happens to be page 57, and I'm going to just sight read this grades 9 to 10 example at the bottom of page 57, looking only here and not looking at my fingers. Now, I've played this before, but there are so many in here that I don't remember which one it is, so I basically sight reading it, I guess, although I've played it before. Now, I'm going to, once you set up your fingers to the proper position to start, it's okay to look down to set up your fingers on the first chord. Okay, now I'm just going to try to look only here and not down at my fingers. Do a repeat. Okay, not once did I ever glance down at my fingers. Not once. It was always steady here. But that's because everything is close together. Okay, if this were a piece by Chopin or Liszt where you had to jump all over the place, then I would most likely look down while I'm doing it. So this is good. The Bach chorales as presented in Sight Reading and Harmony or other books that happen to have Bach chorales in them, are an excellent place to practice your sight reading, because it's perfect music to not have to look down at your fingers. I mean, you can if you want to. If I were performing this in a concert or something and had a whole bunch of them, I would probably look here and down here. But just for the discipline of working on your sight reading without looking down at your fingers, these are excellent because they're close together. Mozart is also a good composer for that, because Mozart's music tends to be closer together and doesn't have a lot of pyrotechnics with jumping around. So that's what I would say is at work here. So your eyes need to either be here or here. Your eyes can be here if it's memorized. Your eyes should be here if you're reading the music. If you're somewhere in between, if you sort of have some of it memorized and some of it not, and you're performing something, it's perfectly okay to look up here and sort of glance down a little bit, but you want to keep that at a minimum and keep it less nervous. So you don't want quick eye motion, but you want definite, either it's here or it's here or it's here. So it's much more steady like that. Now I'm going to close up Sight Reading and Harmony. I'm going to go to a Brahms piece that I've been working on here. Brahms Intermezzo, Opus 76, number 6 in A major. And I don't really have it memorized yet. I don't even know if I'm going to memorize it, but I'm going to demonstrate for you here. I'm going to play the first page, and I'm going to pretend like I'm sight reading. Okay, I'm not sight reading it, but I'm going to pretend like I'm sight reading it, and I'm going to try to keep my eyes here and not go down. There are not a whole lot of pyrotechnics and jumping around here, and it's a relatively slow piece, so I think it's possible to do that. So I'm going to play here slowly. I'm going to play under performance speed. First page, I think I only glanced down just for a split second in the beginning, because there's a part where you kind of have to jump up. So, but other than that, I think my eyes were pretty steady here, and I was looking in the middle, pretty much in the middle of the stave between the treble and bass clef. So my eyes were very steady moving in this fashion. Now, if I perform it, my eyes would probably vary a little bit. I was trying not to look down. So I was trying to be disciplined. But if you're performing something, it's not always going to work that way. So if I were performing this and I were reading the music and I weren't playing it memorized, my eyes would go from here and it would go down here occasionally to see what I'm doing. So it depends on the situation you're in. It's a good idea to try to not look at your fingers if you can, but it's not a big deal. The world isn't going to explode if you look down. So you've heard that saying, never look at your fingers when you're sight reading. Well, there's some truth in that, but I wouldn't take that so literally. I wouldn't take that so literally at all. So what else did I want to say here? Well, I think that that's how I would analyze a situation. With the eye tracking, of course I don't have the glasses on, but when I watched that video, I watched it a couple times and I started to analyze what I would do in a situation like that. And it depends on the context of the music. Also, I wanted to also add that when you're playing scales, arpeggios, other exercises like that, you should get away from looking at the music as quickly as possible. So if you're working on scales, let's say let's say C sharp minor scale. Let's say you're working on C sharp harmonic minor. You can, if you have the book you're working with the scale, it's okay, you can look at it for a while. But as quickly as possible, try to get away from reading that. Scales, arpeggios, any kind of exercise like that, in my opinion, should be memorized. They should all be memorized. There's no point in opening, like the Hannon book, for instance. If you open the Hannon book, at the end of the Hannon book are a bunch of all the 4-octave scales. I've always found it kind of funny that they include that in there, because by the time a student is playing 4-octave scales up and down, they don't look at the music anyway. It's always memorized. So why have it in a book? I mean, why have 4-octave scales in a book? Because by the time you can play them, nobody looks at the book. So I think, in my opinion, scales in books should only be 1 or 2 octaves. And then if taken 3 or 4 octaves, then the student should be able to do that without looking at the music. It should be totally memorized. So if you're a piano student, you need to work on memorizing all your scales and arpeggios and all your exercises that you're doing. That's very important. I think the faster and the better you can memorize your exercises and look down at your fingers while you're doing it, then the better off you'll be, and you'll be able to apply that to pieces of music. So it's perfectly okay to look down at your hands when you're playing scales. When I just played the C sharp minor scale here, I'm looking right here at my fingers. I'm not looking there. I mean, well, when you're first learning it, you could learn it that way because if you're reading it from a book. But once it's learned, by all means, look at your fingers. It's not a bad thing to look at your fingers when you're playing the piano. You can look at your fingers, look at your hands if something's memorized. So I hope that just gives you a little insight into my opinions on the eye tracking phenomenon. I think it's an interesting video. You can check it out below this video and offer your thoughts or comments on this video in the comments section. So thank you for joining me. Until we meet again.